Thanks for joining us.
Let's get started here for the webinar. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Tracy Gardner, the Global Marketing Director at VLink, and I'm thrilled to have you join us for today's conversation, Architecting AI-Ready Enterprises, Decisions That Matter. This is going to be a 30-minute webinar, and time will fly, so we're going to get started. We just want to thank you all of those for joining us, and for all of those that are joining us, you will receive a cloud readiness checklist for all attendees. So we want to remind you of that, but we have that complimentary checklist that we'll be sending to you. And if we have time, we'll preview it. It's designed to help your organization assess and plan for scalable modernization. And as many of you know, in 2026, enterprise technology priorities are shifting from experimentation to more structural enablement. So AI may be driving innovation, but organizations are realizing that their foundations, the systems, their data, their operating models must be re-engineered for long-term scale. So today we'll be exploring how technology leaders can make the right modernization decisions to support sustainable AI growth. I'm joined by three incredible guests: Grant Fritchey, Microsoft MVP and product advocate at Redgate Software, who brings deep expertise in data platform modernization; Edward Moemeka, Microsoft MVP and managing partner at ThinkMine, specializing in enterprise cloud and AI transformation; and Tony Dillon, AVP of Solution Partnerships and IT Strategy here at VLink, who's leading partnerships in Microsoft Services and Azure modernization. Welcome to you three. It's so good to have you guys here.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thanks.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. So, and a reminder to all our guests before we get into the questions real quick and the content, put any questions you have in the chat and we'll definitely get to those. And we'll get to them in real time. Grant, this is such an important subject, and I want to start with you. As someone who's worked with data-driven organizations for years, what are you seeing as the biggest architectural barriers preventing companies from becoming AI ready?
All right, Tracy. Well, thanks. That's a great question, and thanks for having me, by the way. The Interestingly enough, the problems that we're hitting with AI are the problems that we've been hitting anyway. When we start talking about data and data management and how you would implement AI within that, the shortcoming, the thing that's really chewing on people is the fact that they don't have an automated testing regime already set up for their databases. Their deployments and their methodologies for managing their data is to a large degree still somewhat ad hoc or manual. And because of that, it's far too easy then to just plug the AI in as if it was yet another developer. And that's going to hit issues, but it's going to hit the same issues that you would hit if you brought on a junior DBA and had the junior DBA doing crazy stuff inside of production. You wouldn't want to do that any more than you would want to plug the AI in. So you've got to have those guardrails and the infrastructure and the processes to automate your testing and validation before you get in there, just like you would do, to avoid having that junior DBA making crazy mistakes.
Totally makes sense. Totally makes sense, Grant. And Edward, I want to move over to you. So you've helped many enterprises reimagine their cloud, right, and their AI operating models. How do you think the most forward-looking CIOs and CTOs approach modernization differently in 2026?
Thanks, and thanks for having me. The short answer is that modernization is now AI first, not cloud first. Over the past 15 years, modernization has meant cloud migration, lift and shift, replatforming, all the buzzwords we've all become accustomed to. Today, the best CIOs are designing architecture around AI consumption and production in three key different areas. Firstly, modern platforms are now being built to feed AI with structured, governed data. In support of this, cloud architecture is being optimized for AI workloads in concert with applications which are now being redesigned with a focus on AI augmented workflows. And there are key trends here to look at. One of them is that AI and ML are now the top technology priority of many CIOs, with about 42% of them reporting major strategic investment in the area. And many organizations are allocating as much as 30% of their cloud budget to generative AI initiatives. So the TLDR infrastructure from an AI perspective is now treated as a product platform. Modernization is incremental and composable, and the data architecture is becoming the central modernization layer.
It's yeah, it's also interesting. And Tony, let's take it from VLink's perspective. You work with Azure a lot, and Azure modernization. How does it fit into building an AI ready foundation? Because as Edward said, modernization is AI first. What kinds of modernization approaches are proving most scalable, do you think?
Yeah, so hi Tracy. Yeah, Edward framed it really well. So it's important to understand that, AI modernization is not just an IT project. It's a business strategy decision. So what we're seeing be the most scalable is a workload first approach, right? So meaning organizations, they're not just trying to take everything and move it into the cloud. They're taking a step back and they're identifying, right, which workloads have the highest AI potential, and then they modernize
Mhm.
those first. And we're seeing that work really well. And the beauty of Azure is that it gives you this unified fabric, right, with services like
Right.
Azure OpenAI, Microsoft Fabric, Defender for Cloud, right? So when you modernize, you're not just, moving everything into the cloud, but you actually are activating this system, this platform that's already wired for AI, which is huge. So the
Yeah.
organizations that do this really well, they're treating Azure as this sort of connective tissue. So they're connecting their data with their AI models, but even more importantly, all of their business outcomes, and that makes a world of difference.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I would say any of you, feel free to answer this. I'll just throw it out there. Many companies have moved workloads to the cloud, but are realizing that lift and shift, as Edward had said earlier, is just not enough. What practical steps can organizations take to evolve their architecture without losing that operational stability? Any one of you, all of you can take it.
I mean, I'll
So I
say it
think,
again.
oh,
It's
go ahead.
oh, go ahead. Go
Go,
ahead,
go
Edward.
ahead, go ahead,
No, no,
Tony.
please go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say that it's really it comes back to the fundamentals and
Mhm.
automation. If you've got the ability to automate your code into production today, implementing AI is not going to fundamentally change what you do. It's going to
No.
accelerate it. You're going to be doing a lot more, a lot faster, and you're going to be able to do things with your data that you've never been able to do before. But in order to actually make it work, to actually get it implemented, you've just got to have the fundamentals in place. I mean, it's clean data. It's known data. You know the sources. All of those fundamentals. It just always comes back to that. And if those are solid, the AI implementation is going to be not only a whole lot easier, but a whole lot more
Yeah.
effective.
Yeah. More seamless. And Edward, you wanted to add something too.
Yeah, I was just going to say that if you look at the landscape of technology and what's been done over the past maybe 40 years, we have lived in this world where organizations build applications that target this, I would say, tactical, procedural way of working. If you want
Hmm.
to see the customers, if you want to change the status on a customer, you first have to list the customers, find the customer, pull the customer information out, make the update, save it, and that cycle goes over and over again. With the shift of AI towards away from this idea of tactical procedural processing and towards results driven development, organizations now have to start thinking about redefining their service layers and their capabilities around emergence and building emergent capabilities, not necessarily driving out the intent of any one specific application or tool, but just exposing services that can be combined together to create new capabilities that emerge out of just the underlying data and services that exist within the org.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And I want to remind those of you who are with us today, thanks for joining us. And please put your questions in the chat if you have any. I think it's such an interesting conversation. Grant, I think with modernization often comes complexity, or at least we think that that complexity comes with it. How should IT leaders prioritize between modernization speed and maintaining that resilience and security, especially for data-heavy enterprises?
Wow, okay, that's a bit of a scary question. Um, the short answer is that well, you can't, people do, but you can't compromise on your security. And
Yeah.
that's honestly one of the issues that is very common that people run into is that they decide that speed trumps security and therefore they reduce
Mm,
the security and get the speed. But the issue is really fundamental because the security worries don't go away. If anything, again, with AI, they're accelerated. I mean, the gorgeous beauty of AI and AI implementation is the acceleration, is the speed. I mean, and I love the way Edward says it, AI first. I couldn't agree more. But
mhm.
it's still got to be tempered with we still have to have security, we still have to have clean data, we still have to control things,
Absolutely.
GDPR, all of the traditional compliance issues have not disappeared because of AI. If anything, AI is
Mhm.
just again accelerating, the need to have those things in place.
Yeah, for sure. And Edward, AI readiness often depends on those healthy data ecosystems. We've talked about that. And I think governance is so important. What would you think are a few key governance or data quality practices executives should be focusing on right now?
So executives should be focusing on governing data quality around AI readiness, regulatory risk, and operational trust. The goal essentially is to no longer just focus on clean data, but on data that can safely power AI analytics and automated decision making. This ultimately means that the data itself needs to be treated as a governance product for the, I guess, best way to describe it. What we want to do is we want to establish clear data ownership and stewardship with clear RACI matrix around the meaning and usage of data. We want to create a business data glossary. This is sometimes referred to as an enterprise entity set or semantic model. You typically want to implement and automate data quality scorecards and treat your data the same way as typically we've treated things like SLAs, right? So understand what quality data is versus non-quality data, have some metrics associated with it, and use automation to track to ensure that this is consistently happening. You want to track your data lineage end to end. You'll need visibility into your source systems. You need
Yeah.
visibility into integration pipelines, transformations, warehouses, and just implement general AI readiness governance for your AI.
Yeah. And, Tony, I want to bring you in real quick because we talked a lot about governance and that kind of stuff, security. But how can CIOs balance that cost optimization with innovation so that cloud and AI strategies remain sustainable? Because I know cost is a big issue.
Yeah, it is a big issue. And I think to some degree, it kind of depends on how you frame it, right? So cost optimization and innovation, they're not exact opposites of each other, right? They actually reinforce each other, at least if you're strategic about it. So Microsoft has FinOps tools and Azure cost management capabilities built in that give CIOs real visibility into their cloud spend, right? So once they have that visibility, then now they can kind of understand where they might have room to invest. So the CIOs that are kind of doing this well, they're kind of doing two things. One, they're right sizing their infrastructure before they start to add new AI capabilities, right? That's important because you kind of can't have one without the other. But
Yeah.
two, they're actually tying every modernization dollar that they have to a business outcome and not a technology milestone, which is kind of different than what they've done in the past. And that we've seen that be very beneficial as well. And because so you asked me about budgets. So the reason that's important is because, when your CFO can see that, that co-pilot deployment that you just did, is
Yeah.
actually reducing labor hours, right? Or it's accelerating some new revenue cycle. Now the whole budget conversation changes, right? And
It
that
does.
IT budget that was starting to shrink is now actually starting to grow. So it's a completely
Yeah,
different conversation.
totally makes sense. And Taryn's telling me we have a question. So for organizations that have already moved workloads to the cloud using lift and shift, what practical next steps should they take to modernize without disrupting operations? Any of you can take that. So organizations who have already moved workloads to the cloud using lift and shift, what practical next steps should they take to modernize without disruption?
I guess my follow-up
Anybody?
question to that would be, are you referring to modernizing towards AI or just modernizing in general?
That I don't know. This is just the question I see in the chat. So you could answer it both ways.
Okay, so in terms of just in general, once you've lifted and shifted onto the cloud, the next big focus is on taking your applications and individually modernizing them. Typically, what you've done in doing a traditional lift and shift is you've just replaced your data centers that are controlled and owned by your organization with data centers that are owned and controlled by Microsoft or Amazon or whomever, but you haven't really gotten the full benefit of the cloud, which is really in the platform as a service, pay for play approach that cloud platforms like Azure with app services provide you. So the next step is doing that. Is basically taking your websites and web application and converting them into app services or lambdas or containerizing them, taking your data and migrating it over from a VM version of SQL Server into a PaaS Azure SQL solution, taking your organizational identity, basically Active Directory running in your local environment and migrating it over to Azure Entra. And this is a critical step if you're talking about moving to AI. This is really an interim step because once you understand and have your applications refocused and repointed towards modern technologies, now it's easy to start going down that path of understanding what your enterprise entity set looks like, what business capabilities you have, and how to convert those quickly and easily into AI offerings using tools like Microsoft Foundry, Copilot, and all those other technologies.
Gotcha. Anyone else want to add to that or?
Yeah, I would. I'm going to be
Okay,
the black hat
sure.
for the moment. You're absolutely not going to modernize without disrupting. AI by itself, just trying to implement AI is going to disrupt some of your operations, and you have to plan for that. You have to assume that up front. Further, the lift and shift. The thing is like I so much agree with everything Tony said, and I so much agree with everything Edward said. They are 100% correct on every bit of it. You've got to be managing your costs, and there's tools for doing it. You've got to be worrying about moving into those AIs, and there's tools for doing it. But the fact of the matter is that to begin that modernization operation, to move to the platform as a service stuff, which I fully support, to implement AI first, which I fully support, you're guaranteed going to have to disrupt your operations. You can't do what's the quote? We've always done it this way. Well, you can't always have done it this way and implement all new stuff. You are
Yeah,
going to have to disrupt your
true.
operations.
Absolutely. I totally agree. We do have another question. Anybody can take it. What architectural patterns do you expect to dominate AI-ready enterprises over the next 3 to 5 years? Any thoughts there? What architectural patterns do we expect to dominate AI-ready enterprises over the next 3 to 5
No,
years?
I don't know. I don't know that we've
Well, I
established a
mean,
pattern yet.
okay.
That's my
We're
thought anyway.
establishing patterns. Yeah. Any
I
any
think I
thoughts,
think we're
Edward,
building
from
it
you?
out still.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think
We're
that
still
there's going to be a heightened focus on digital sovereignty. And that lends itself to bringing applications back in-house, bringing your data back in-house, bringing your business logic back in-house. And from that, I think that architectural patterns can emerge. There are patterns out there, but you're both absolutely right. I think it's still a wait and see right now to understand. We really do need to understand what the demand looks like. We're sort of like still sitting on shaky ground as of right now.
We're still in the very beginnings. I mean, we're definitely not at the
Yes.
final frontier for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, just a quick fire round. If any of you can
Okay, go
answer,
ahead.
what's one modern is? Oh, go, Tony. Did you have something to say? I'm
No,
sorry.
No,
that
that
was
was
Grant, I
me.
believe.
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Grant.
No, it wasn't anything all that important. I was just gonna say another thing, agreeing with Tony once more, is finance and cost and AI and modernization. One of the things that people are going to be looking at more and more is some of the open source AI. And there's a lot of open source applications, a lot of open source work. Not so much for your hosting. At the end, you're probably still going to go to Azure. You're probably still going to go to the cloud for a lot of it, not necessarily for all of it. But um, but what you're going to find is development and localization on development for generating your own AI models is probably going to be driven more from an open source solution than from developing on the cloud. Instead, you'll develop locally on free resources and then move that stuff to the cloud for implementation.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay. Um, Now, anyone can answer these. This is a quick fire round. What's one modernization decision you've seen recently that really moved the needle for an enterprise? Anyone got something there?
I'll jump on that one really quick. And it's
Okay, sure.
kind of reinforces something that Grant said earlier about security. I would recommend that customers that companies that are using Azure to consolidate on the Microsoft security stack. I think I'm a big believer in platform, right? And utilizing the tools that are designed to work together and support each other. So going off of platform in some cases just doesn't really make sense, right? So when you have solutions like Defender and Sentinel that are designed to, excuse me, protect and defend your environment, going off platform using point solutions for those is counterproductive in some cases. And I see a lot
Gotcha.
of people doing that. I know that E5 SKU is expensive, right? You don't want to pay for it. Or even some of the add-ons to the E5 SKU are expensive. But the value that it brings you versus bringing in some of the third-party solutions and the headaches that you don't have from an implementation standpoint, I think are mitigated by the cost is mitigated by having those solutions that are designed to protect the environment that you're already heavily invested in. So if I had one suggestion, I'd say stay on platform. Definitely, go deep in that Microsoft security stack, and I think it'll pay off in the long run.
Okay, great. Again, any of you can answer. What's one decision that many leaders still get wrong when modernizing for AI? Grant, you sort of touched on it. And Tony, you just did. Maybe going, a little off, not using all the same solution type things. But what do you guys think? How would you answer that? What's one decision that many leaders still get wrong when modernizing for AI?
I
The
mean, I think
automation.
one thing
No, go ahead, Everett, please.
I was just going to say, I think one thing that leaders still get wrong and maybe this is sort of where you were going, Grant, as well, is in just some general assumptions about how plug and play AI is, right? There's a lot of branding around co-pilots and just, wish bang, and it's working. But in reality, building a comprehensive AI platform it's still very much a bottom up approach, which requires what I call an AI landing zone. That implements data security policies, guardrails, and all kinds of things that are tied into AI that you don't hear a lot about. But it's really the difference between putting something out there that will get you sued and putting something out there
Yeah.
that you has a measure of predictability to it, which you want. It's deterministic, but but friendly, so to speak.
Yeah, you have to think about that. Go ahead, Grant. You had a thought too.
Well, no, I mean,
What's
I don't think he said anything different from what I was going to say. I mean, it really always comes back to the fundamentals. I mean, sure, we want to implement AI. Are we building an agent or are we trying to consume our own data? Let's say we're consuming our own data. Okay, cool. We know our data is clean and all that, but this is a new data platform. You're not going to run queries
Mhm.
against it the same way you run queries against, your Postgres database. Vector math is different, and you have to take into account, all of these different technologies and the way they are actually going to change the way your data is managed, where it gets stored, how it gets stored, how it gets backed up, how it gets recovered in an emergency, because emergencies are still going to happen, AI or
Oh
not.
yeah.
Um, but it always circles back for me back to fundamentals and automation. If we've got those in place,
Mhm.
then the rest is just labor.
Yeah, makes sense. We have one other question, guys, and I know we're getting short on time. We have about 4 minutes left, so plenty of time to answer the questions for sure. So put them in the chat before we go. For a CIO, what is one primary architectural decision this year to prepare for AI at scale? For a CIO, an architectural decision this year to prepare for AIO at scale. Anybody?
I think
Feel free to.
a primary decision is to basically um, build that structure around your data being a product, what that means, how that ties to your overarching enterprise, what is your semantic model around data, how do you manage the pipeline for data, and what is the meaning of it, and putting owners that drive that, putting a RACI in place associated with it, and having a clear articulated definition for every single field that you transfer, display,
Mhm.
store within your enterprise. Setting that system up sets you up for everything that's going to come in the future. That's really the starting point, in my opinion, at least.
Perfect. And Grant, do you see the role of the data platform evolving as enterprises operationalize AI at scale?
Yeah.
How do you see that
I mean,
happening?
the thing is that it's the same stuff. It's as we move to a new data platform, and AI is a new data platform, it's
Hmm.
going to require changes in our methodologies. Um, the issues remain a lot the same, security, all the rest, but the fundamentals of the behaviors of that system and then the stuff that we can do with it changes everything, and we have to take that into account as we're making our plans for what we're going to do, we're making our plans for how we're going to do it. For the the C-suite people out there, I'm going to defer to Tony and Edward on giving them good information, but for the technical people out there, you need to be learning this stuff and you need to be on top of it because it's coming.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
C-suites sees the successful organizations using it, and they are going to want to use it as well. So, I mean, there's going to be some
so true.
preparation on the technology side because it is a different platform and therefore it has different requirements. There's
Yeah, for sure.
you don't swap platforms. People always talk about we'll just change platforms. Good luck with that. Um, but
Yeah,
but the reason being is
exactly.
that they are fundamentally different. And so this is going to cause a shift and an evolution.
Yeah. One last question, Tony, quickly. Where do partnerships like I wanted to get this in, especially like Microsoft's Azure ecosystem, play the strongest role in helping companies modernize smarter and faster?
Yeah, it's a good question, Tracy. So, um, the honest answer is that I think most companies really just don't have the bandwidth or, the internal bench to do all of this modernization by themselves.
Hmm.
So, the Microsoft partner ecosystem, which we're a part of, and, what we bring to the table is we kind of help close that gap between, what Azure can do and what a company is actually ready to do. Right. So,
Gotcha.
uh, as a Microsoft aligned partner, we bring that you know roadmap knowledge, we bring co-sell access, We bring funding access for things like, assessments, for proof of concepts. And also we've got relationships, client relationships with Microsoft customers. So that's extremely valuable as well. So what we see is the companies that modernize the quickest or the fastest, they're not just, buying Azure. They're not just partnering with a system integrator. They're partnering with, a Microsoft solution partner that has the understanding of how to capitalize on and translate the capabilities of Azure and apply that to a company's very specific environment. And that's huge.
Good point. Absolutely. Well, believe it or not, guys, we're out of time. I mean, it flew by, but as a reminder, I wanted to let all attendees, it really did. All attendees are going to receive a complimentary cloud partner platforms app modernization readiness checklist. That's a mouthful, but you will definitely be receiving that. It's designed to help your organization assess and plan for scalable modernization. And I know Tony and Edward worked on that. It's been such a powerful discussion. Thank you, Grant, Edward, Tony, for sharing your insight. It's been great. We really appreciate you guys being here.
Thanks for having me, Tracy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the time.
Absolutely. And if you're interested in contacting one of these great panelists, their contact info is on the contact slide. So take a look at that, write it down. You can always email me if you need it, if it's not up long enough. And if you couldn't join us live, a recording will be emailed to everyone who registered. And to our panelists, again, thank you for your time and expertise. And to everyone who joined us, thank you for being part of the VLink webinar series. We'll see you all next time.